In this video, I'm going to react to America's Strangest Serial Killer. Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of Kabir Considers. This is the place where I react to music, media, sports, anime, anything related to popular culture. I'll watch it with an open mind and give you my 100% honest reaction to it. And if you could please hit that like button early, I'd really appreciate it. Now, this is going to be a really fascinating one just because when it comes to, people like this, like serial killers, I kind of have a bit of an interest in, what makes people do these things. Is it something that they're born with? Is it, are they kind of almost like products of their environment? Maybe they witnessed something really young and it kind of warped their mind, or are they just plain evil? I don't know. And this video, when it was recommended to me, I was like, this is going to be a really interesting one because it's really different to anything I've reacted to so far. But to gain the label of being the strangest serial killer, it must be something really quite bizarre, and it really intrigues me. So let's go. This is going to be me reacting to America's Strangest Serial Killer. Let's do it.
So far we've covered perhaps the most well-known serial killer in Jack the Ripper, the most beastly in Ted Bundy, and now we are about to enter the realm of perhaps the weirdest savage ever to hold a place in the serial killer hall of infamy. He was the inspiration behind the hit.
I probably need to go back and react to Ted Bundy and the other guy just to, complete the series, I guess.
Hitchcock classic movie Psycho, as well as the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and to some extent, The Silence of the Lambs. There hasn't really been anyone that shocked the world as much as this guy. Just ask the cops that discovered his house of horrors, the ones that didn't succumb to a nervous breakdown anyway. If you haven't heard of him, you're in for a surprise. So welcome to this episode of the infographic show, America's Strangest Serial Killer, Ed Gein. First of all, we should say that Mr. Gein was not close to someone like Ted Bundy on the nasty scale, nor was he as brutal as Jack the Ripper or as despicable as H.H. Holmes. If anything, the man was warped beyond comprehension. Also known as the Butcher of Plainfield, Gein was no doubt mentally ill to an unfathomable degree. So, many of you will have heard of the movie Psycho. It's rather old, and most likely older than most of you watching. You might have heard of the series The Bates Motel, which is based on that movie. Well, the main character in the movie was based on Ed Gein, and indeed, Gein was said to have been brought up in an abusive family with a very oppressive and hyper-religious mother. He was born on August 27, 1906, in a place called La Crosse, Wisconsin.
This is the thing, as I suspected at the start of the video, in the intro, product of his environment, it seems that had a massive, or it had an influence in him becoming what he became, I assume, or I guess at least.
According to serial killer websites, Gein had a beleaguered childhood, having to listen to his mother's frantic preaching regarding sin and lust and the inevitable hell they would lead to. It's said his childhood was very isolated and he had few friends. He had a brother who died in an accident when Gein was still young. Some people have conjectured that Gein killed him, but there's no proof. People have ventured that Gein, being the shy and weaker brother, killed his sibling, and this could be compared to the Old Testament thriller Cain and Abel. But let's stick with what we know. One bio tells us at school he rarely socialized, although we are told his teachers remembered that he had demonstrated queer mannerisms such as laughing randomly. Later in life, his family moved to a farm, and there Gein became even more isolated. His mother may have been strict, but it said Gein was obsessed with her. He adored her. She told him that having relationships with women was a sin, and that all other women besides herself were prostitutes, and dating them essentially meant being in league with Satan himself. This was not a good start for young Ed, especially if you've read Freud on overbearing mothers.
I mean, this is just a recipe for disaster so far. Oh my god.
Gein's father died, and so it was just him and the zealous mother. But then she had a stroke and Gein ended up having to look after her. He took odd jobs around town and was known as a quiet, decent guy who was reliable when you wanted something fixed. Apparently, he was quite a capable handyman. His devotion to his mother was unerring, but it said that Gein had become fascinated with stories about Nazis and cannibals, which he read in various books and death cult magazines. His mother then passed away in 1945, leaving Ed alone on the farm. It's said he kept the rooms where she had stayed in the same condition and locked them so they would stay that way forever. He continued working his odd jobs and doing work on the farm, but a few years after his mother's death, Gain took up a new hobby. To some extent, that hobby was trying to become her. Now for the gruesome part. As we said, Gain was not a prolific serial killer, but what he did do makes up for the low body count. In 1957, a woman that worked at a local hardware store went missing. Her name was Bernice Warden. Her son told police that one of the last people to be seen in the store with her was none other than the habitual hat-wearing Mr. Gain. He was arrested shortly after, and police received a warrant to check out the Gain farm. This is not one of those serial killer stories with twists and turns, because the cops found what they were looking for immediately upon searching the farm. That was Mrs. Warden's dead body, shot with a .22 caliber rifle, hung upside down in a shed like an animal. The torso had been, what's called in hunting, dressed out, meaning it was opened and the organs had been taken out. The body was also mutilated from head to toe. Captain Lloyd's show poster, who saw this grisly sight, said tendons in the ankles had been cut and a rod had been placed through them. The body was drawn up in the air by a block and tackle, the body was dressed out, and the head was missing.
What a sick bastard. Ugh. Gosh. Ugh.
Her head was later found in a burlap sack. Ed had a thing for heads, as you shall see. This was obviously a sickening sight for the deputy that found the body, but inside the house, police got the shock of their lives. As we said, he liked to keep the heads of his victims. Police found 5 heads inside plastic bags, as well as 4 skulls. But more stomach churning, they also found masks, whereby Gain had carefully cut off the faces and kept them intact so he could wear them. One police officer told the press, "Some of them have lipstick on and look perfectly natural. If you knew them, you'd be able to recognize them." In fact, Gain was a handyman in many ways, and we are not talking about fixing creaking doors. Police found all sorts of things, and not just human remains. Gain had made lampshades, chair covers, and wastebaskets out of human skin. He had human skulls sitting atop bedposts, and in the kitchen you could find bowls made from skulls.
Ugh. Oh my god, that's disgusting.
Psycho, he made a skin corset that he could get into and thereby be a woman, or more specifically, his mother. He didn't leave out the bottom half, having made leggings out of skin as well as skin socks. Perhaps his piece de resistance in terms of fashionable items was a belt made from women's nipples.
I'm genuinely irritated. Oh, this is disgusting. Oh my god. The poor victims, man. Oh my goodness.
Also had a collection of noses and vulvas. If Ed wanted, he could become a woman by wearing all of this. But it wasn't all about dressing up. He even had lips he could grab hold of on the end of curtain drawstrings. According to one website, Gain would wear a death mask and the skin clothes and then go and dance around in the garden with his costume on. We cannot confirm this though. It doesn't really matter because Gain admitted he liked to wear the suit to become his mother, so just the thought of him watching TV in his face mask and skin suit is horrifying enough. Now, Gain didn't kill people for all of his handiwork. He told police that much of his raw material was gathered by robbing local graves. He did, however, admit to at least one more murder, and he was suspected of having killed more women. A famous quote of Gain was this: "When I see a pretty girl walking down the street, I think 2 things. One part wants to be real nice and sweet, and the other part wonders what her head would look like on a stick." Well, some websites...
Goodness. Wow. This guy was really disturbed. Really disturbed. I mean, and he kind of, I'm getting, do you remember that Silence of the Lambs? The guy who was, it rubs the lotion on its skin or else it gets the hose again. The guy who said that, what was his name? Bruce, oh God, Bruce the Butcher or something like that? Yeah, I'm getting major vibes of him from this guy here.
And even the movie American Psycho attribute this to Gain, but other websites tell us it was another strange killer named Ed Kemper that said it. Such strangeness and brutality left its mark on Plainfield, which would never be plain again. Many people say the sheriff of the town died fairly young as a result of the trauma from investigating this case. In fact, one of the sheriff's friends said he was a victim of Ed Gain as surely as if he had butchered him. Gane was
Wow.
unsurprisingly found by the courts to be insane. He was diagnosed with schizophrenia and a severe Oedipus complex. He died in 1984 from lung cancer in Mendota Mental Health Institute. It's thought he said this about his time in one mental institution: "I like this place. Everybody treats me nice. Some of them are a little crazy though." He was buried in Plainfield, although it's said parts of his grave are now missing because people wanted to take a souvenir home with them when they visited. The question we will leave you with today is this: are we correct in saying this is the world's strangest serial killer? Let us know your thoughts in the comments.
Wow, that finished abruptly. Man, that was really, really weird. Really just interesting, but there was some real moments in there where my stomach was turning. I mean, what he would do to his victims was just absolutely just, words can't describe it, just revolting, disgusting, evil. I mean, just wow. It's sad because like from the get-go, the situation he was born into was just a horrible one. It was just inevitable that he was going to be mentally scarred from that. Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, turn on bell notifications, and keep throwing the recommendations my way. I know I say it all the time, but they genuinely help me out because if I know you enjoyed watching something, I'll definitely enjoy reacting to it. So like, subscribe, turn on bell notifications, keep throwing the recommendations, and I'll catch you in the next.